Last week, I created a Cinnabon-inspired stuffed cookie after visiting Universal Studios. It was such a hit that I was asked to make more for some friends. I decided to take the opportunity to make a step-by-step guide on my process for this recipe for anyone who would like to make them. I'm going to start with the cream cheese filling so it'll have time to harden in the freezer. I'm going to use about a half cup of room temperature cream cheese and give it a stir, making it easier to add the rest of my ingredients later on. Next, I'll sift half a cup of powdered sugar. If you've watched my other videos, you'll know I encourage sifting to avoid clumps in your cookies. At this point, I was being really stubborn and tried desperately to keep the sugar from getting on the counter, but I finally had to give in and sift it into a large bowl. In addition to adding about a half teaspoon of vanilla and a quarter teaspoon of salt, I'm also going to add a tablespoon of flour. The flour will bind the filling just enough so that it won't be too messy. I'm going to try to make it easy on myself and pipe the fillings onto a baking sheet using a Ziploc bag with the corner of it cut off. I've been asked why I crumple the papers on baking sheets. To be honest, it just prevents the paper from coiling. Since making smaller stuffed cookies is new to me, I'm giving myself some flexibility by piping various sizes and seeing what works best. While those are in the freezer, I can focus on the dough. The cookie dough will essentially be a snickerdoodle base. Starting with the dry ingredients, I'm adding 1 1/4 cup of flour. You'll notice I don't weigh my flour, but I'm also not scooping and compressing it either. I let it fall into the measuring cup and lightly shake off the excess. Add a half teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of cornstarch, and a half teaspoon of salt. I'll set my dry mix aside to get my butter and sugar mix ready. I read somewhere that using cold butter will help the cookies not flatten out so much, so I'll give it a try. To a half cup of butter, I'm adding 1 cup of sugar. I'll cream them together before adding 1 egg and about 1 teaspoon of vanilla. I didn't show this every time, but I did frequently scrape the sides of the bowl and spatula to make sure everything gets well combined. Once the egg and vanilla are mixed in, I'll add my dry ingredients slowly. For me, this dough came out perfectly. It's slightly tacky, which tells me the cookies won't end up dry, but it'll keep its shape when I make a pocket for the filling. Unfortunately, because there are more cookies and it's taking longer to fill, the cream cheese was getting too soft to handle. Because of this, I had to work essentially out of the freezer for the rest of them. At the end of the day, it worked. Each one was rolled in a cinnamon sugar mix, and I'll let them cool in the fridge. It has been a couple hours and the cookies are ready to bake. I've set the oven to 350 degrees and baked these cookies for about 14 minutes. They came out perfect, and I know yours will too. Subscribe for more satisfying videos and cookie recipes. I'll see you next time.